What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the CAR-NIVORES YouTube channel. We're back at it again. We're doing another feature with my buddy Chris over here and his old school 240 daddy or mama. What would you call it? 240 mama?
240 daddy.
240 daddy over here. The 200 SX. So you young kids, sit back, listen to this guy talk about this classic. If you didn't know, we do features. We feature people's cars in the local car scene. If you are interested in being on a video just like Chris, hit me up, DM me on Instagram or Facebook, the CAR-NIVORES page, whichever way. We do not care what you drive. All we want to do is see how much you love what you drive and share your love with the world, all right? So, not going to talk too much because I actually don't know much about this car. I just know that when I first saw it, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I'm going to let him do the talking, all right? Just a heads up, Chris is the runner, or the owner, or the, what would you call it? Founder of Triangle Rad. It's kind of like a branched off version of our CAR-NIVORES meets, our CAR-NIVORES clubs, except it's specifically for 80s and 90s cars, rad era cars.
Exactly right.
With some exceptions, obviously. You know. Yeah. They actually have meets 4 times a year.
Big ones 4 times a year. Other stuff sprinkled in between as it comes up.
Yeah. So if you're in the area and if you're in North Carolina and you're interested in that, go check out the Triangle Rad Facebook group. It's super cool. We browse Facebook Marketplace and find old rad cards. They found some crazy deals before, you know. Some people have actually bought some of the cars that's popped up. It's really cool, man, and it's a nice, cool vibe, and it's literally all about rad cars. That's it. We don't talk about junk else on there, all right? That's enough. Passing it on to Chris.
Thank you.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, James.
Tell the world about yourself and how you got into this beauty.
All right, well, first off, a little bit about the car itself. This is a 1988 Nissan 200SX SE V6. So it's a little bit, now the 200SX itself these days is rare enough.
Yeah.
This one's a little extra rare. The 200SX, which is the S12 Sylvia platform. So y'all know the 240SX is the S13 and the S14 and eventually the S15. This is the S12. Came from 1984 to 88, and then the 240SX came out in 89. So this is before that. Now, most of them would be a 2-liter 4-cylinder or a 1.8 turbo up until 86. Then for 87 and 88, they got rid of the turbo and they came out with the SE V6.
Okay.
Which is a 3-liter V6, the same V6 that's in the 300ZX, the same type.
All right.
And it is rear-wheel drive, it's like the 240. The reason they made the V6 is that they wanted to run that engine in this car in the World Rally Championship.
Oh.
And so you got to have homologation.
Yeah.
Right? They had the very famous 240 RS rally car.
Yeah.
Right? And then after that, after they changed the body and everything else, they wanted to do something different. They wanted to run the VG30 in that car. So they had to make 5,000 of them. So they made 5,000 V6s in 87 and 5,000 in 88.
Okay.
The car actually won its class at the 1988 Safari Rally.
Okay, interesting.
Was the last rear-wheel drive car to win a major rally stage.
Wow.
Where all-wheel drive took over everything.
Real quick, when you say 5,000, is that worldwide? Or is that
this car was only offered in the United States.
Oh!
Japan didn't get it. Europe
Are you
didn't
fucking
get it.
kidding me?
United States only. You know what the laws and the taxes are like in Japan.
Yes.
They're not interested in 3-liter V6 small cars in Japan.
Yeah, true that.
And they knew that. Nissan knew that. Also, they knew, you know how it is, especially with Nissan in Japan. They got 9,000 different submodels and trim levels and everything
absolutely,
like that.
Yeah.
So they knew there was no way they were going to sell 5,000 of one trim level 3-liter car in Japan. They didn't even try.
Wow.
But the Americans bought all the ones that they sent.
You know something? That actually makes sense because of the way it's designed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like America was really about the boxy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's sold well, but it doesn't have a like, it is Japanese, but it doesn't, it has an American vibe to it.
You know, when I was looking at these, I bought this car in 2001.
Oh.
When I was 24 years old, so I'll age myself a little bit. And I'll get into that later, how that all went down. But I was looking at early 80s Celicas, you know, the old rear drive Celicas.
Conquests and shit.
Supras. There were no Conquests around even then.
Oh, dang.
But I looked at a bunch of stuff. And but when I started to look at the V6s specifically, because I looked at a couple of them before I found this one.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. It seemed to me like this would be a little muscle car.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's rear drive, it's a bigger, higher displacement engine than the car was originally intended for.
Yeah.
What else is a muscle car but that?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's like the Japanese equivalent of, you know, like
a pony car.
Pony car.
Wow.
Exactly right. Like I said, the vast majority of these are 2-liter 4-cylinders, 1.8 turbos.
What kind of power does the V6 make?
For 88, it made 165 horsepower.
So that's,
I think 6,200 RPM.
but it only weighs how much?
This car weighs 2950.
So this is faster than a third gen Camaro.
I don't know about that. I'll tell
Third
you.
gen Camaro had like 175 horsepower.
Yep. I'll tell you
And
the best part though is 174 foot-pounds of torque at 3,400 RPM.
Ah.
And the torque curve goes like this. And it's a straight line across. After 3,600 RPM, it's straight across till you get to the red line.
Wow.
It's the weirdest torque curve you've ever seen. It's like a plateau. So the torque comes on
It's
early
super smooth.
and stays on.
Yeah.
So I always refer to it as a torque monkey engine. It's not a rever like, you know, like an SR20.
Yeah.
You know, you get it up to 6,000. That's it. It don't need to go any higher than that.
Gotcha.
That's where your power peak is anyway. But you got to remember, 1988, 165 horsepower. That's best in class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely best.
You didn't
in
start
class.
seeing 200 until 90s came around.
That's right. And you didn't start to see, I remember when, I don't know, about 02, 03, when the new Altimas came out, and they had the 3.5, and it made 255 horsepower.
Yeah.
A 255 horsepower V6 was unheard of.
Absolutely.
Before that.
Yeah.
Unheard of. So
until the Mustangs and Camaros came out in 2010, and they started having their little 305 horse competition, then it went up to 330, 350, yeah.
Exactly right. There was no such thing as a 300 horsepower V6
Yeah.
in the 90s, and certainly not in the 80s. There was no such thing as a 300 horsepower V8 in the 80s, unless you were talking about the Ferrari 308 made 250
yeah,
horsepower.
exactly.
Just did not exist.
Even the 3800 of the god motor of Chevy and Chevy, Pontiac, all the GM cars only made 200 out of the box, and then the supercharged one was only at 240.
Base engine in this, a 2-liter, will be the same car, a little bit lighter because it's a lighter motor.
Yeah.
99 to 102 horsepower.
Isn't it nice to be in 2022?
People say, hey, is this car fast? And I say, it's 80s fast.
It's 80s fast.
It's 80s fast.
88 mile an hour fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's dope, man. So this car would have been a gem back then, man. Like,
it really was, because like I said, it's the same engine out of that generation of the Nissan 300ZX, non-turbo. But it's lighter than a 300ZX by quite a bit.
Gotcha.
It's smaller, lighter. So, you know, it would not a turbo obviously is something else, but this would be faster than an NA 300ZX of the same generation.
Wow, man. All right, obviously we know that this car is super rare and it's actually kind of a gem and kind of sporty for its age. Let's go back to, before we forget, how did you end up falling in love with this, and what's your history with this platform?
My history with this basic platform goes back to when I was 16 years old.
Oh,
and
shit.
My very first car I ever bought was a 1982 Datsun 200 SX, which is the generation before this.
Okay.
The S110 Sylvia.
Okay.
So same idea, very similar. It's a rear drive car, rear drive 4-cylinder, 5-speed. That one had no power. And it was a rust bucket, man. I paid $400 for that car, and it was in Buffalo, New York, so it was rusty. But I learned how to shift on that car. I learned how to drive a rear drive car in the winter on that car. I learned how to keep a high mileage car going on that car.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I had it for a couple of years, and then I got a good deal on an 88 Accord hatchback, and so away went the dot. A much newer 88 Accord hatch. It was in much better condition.
Yeah.
But, you know, I liked that little car. You know, I liked that Datsun. And then I moved south right after college. I got here and I started looking around in 2000, and I could not. All the old Japanese hatchbacks from the 80s still running around with no rust on them. And I had an epiphany. Yeah. Because I was driving a Dodge Dakota Sport.
Yuck.
That I had bought, you know, 94 Dakota Sport that I had bought up there, moved down here with it, you know, so it served its purpose. But when I saw all these old Japanese hatchbacks running around, I said, I am going back to my roots, and I'm
absolutely, man. Welcome to North Carolina, there, sir.
And so, you know, I looked around for that S110 generation first, and even in 2000, There were none.
Dude, listen, I never even fucking heard of this thing until literally today.
Yeah.
We went to go pick up some parts at a junkyard, and bam, there's one just sitting there. And I was like, dude, what the fuck is that? And his eyes just lit up and was like, that's my first car. That's the same car that I had before this one. And I was like, what?
It was about an 81.
And it's called a S10, right? Or S11?
S110.
S110.
There's a funny story about that. The S10 was 77 to 79, the first 200 SX. If you look up a picture of one, they're super goofy, weird looking 70s cars. They're kind of cool.
Okay.
S11 was going to be the replacement for that, and it was supposed to have a rotary engine for 1980.
Whoa!
And they could not make it work. For whatever reason, they ditched the rotary, and so they changed the designation from S11 to S110.
Everybody was trying to go rotary around that time.
Yeah, that's right. They couldn't make it work, so that's why it went S10, S11/110 to S12, to S13, to S14.
Gotcha.
Because they changed the designation when they dropped the rotary.
Gotcha.
So,
little history lesson there.
Yeah. Fast forward to 2001.
Yeah.
And I was looking at cars for about 6 months. I almost bought an 84 200 SX. It got sold out from under me, and that one had the digital dash and everything. But of course, it wasn't a V6. It was a 4-banger, and I'm glad that fell through.
Absolutely.
And I looked at Celicas and Supras and stuff, but I really had an eye to get an S12. And this one came up for sale in May of 2001. Cary, North Carolina, for sale by the original owner.
What?
The guy who bought it off the lot at Southern States Nissan in North Raleigh in 1988 had it until 2000 and sold it to me.
Wow, man.
Yeah. It still had the Southern States Nissan sticker on the back at that time.
Good Lord.
And so it had 122,000 miles on it at that time. I paid him $2,000. And I drove it every day for the next 9 years almost. And I drove this car. I road tripped in it. Far north is Niagara Falls. Far south is Fort Lauderdale. I think it's the furthest west I got was Nashville.
Okay.
So
hit some mountains.
It's got 227,000 miles on it now.
That's baby weight.
So come about 2009, 2010, I was married, had a child on the way, kind of said, I really maybe need to get a car with stuff like airbags and stuff like that, because 80s cars are great. They're great, they're fun. I love the styling. Compared to what we have now, or even what we had, 15 years later, they're not safe.
Yeah.
They are tin cans, and I hesitate to use the term death trap, but relatively speaking, compared to the cocoons that we're driving around in now,
absolutely.
It's hard to die in a car these days compared to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Compared to that, they're not safe. So I parked it, and I had a succession of other Nissans after that. I had a 96 SER, and I had a 2005 Spec V.
Okay.
But this, it's sad. And
did it set running? Like it was fine, or was it broken?
It ran when parked. Classic line, it ran when parked.
It was running fine when you parked it.
Yeah. And I just parked it, and I parked it, and then I got it back on the road for a while.
Yeah.
And parked it again. It sat outside for about 3 years, and then when I moved from that place, it wouldn't start.
Gotcha.
And so I flatbedded it to my new place where I actually had a garage. Got it in the garage. Pulled the fuel pump.
Yeah. Fucking crud.
Crud and rust come off the fuel pump, and I look into the tank, and it looks like syrup.
Yeah, sludge.
So water got in, and at that time
chocolate milk.
I had other things happening in my life, and so it sat until I moved again into the house I have now. Flatbedded it over again on plates from another car, so AAA would do it, and I didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so I started working on it. I started working on it really hard in 2018, and I pulled the tank. I cleaned out the tank, replaced the entire fuel system. I have a spare engine that came off of another car just like this that belonged to a friend of mine that got totaled back in like 04. So I had another engine, so I switched a bunch of parts over, injectors, everything like that. And I finally got it to start. Once it started, the longer it ran, the better it ran.
Absolutely.
You could just feel it coming back to life, clearing all the crud out. So since then, I've been doing stuff kind of slow just to keep it going, and
making sure it's blue.
I did the timing belt. Well, see, this was originally red, right?
Yeah.
So back about 15 years ago, when I put electric fans on it and I ran all the wiring, I used red conduit. All on red.
Oh, right on.
And then all the red paint stripped off, so I had some black high temp stuff that I did with it. I got to do it again. But what happened was I bought new ignition wires, and I got NGK ignition wires. Well, they're blue.
Yeah.
And about that same time, I was redoing the fan wiring. So I said, I guess I'll go blue then.
Yeah, I guess it's blue time.
So, and then when I did I did an aftermarket temp gauge because the temp gauge died. So I had to build this 3-piece hose to put the sensor in. So I went blue with that. I guess we're doing black.
I guess blue
on black in the engine
Blue
bay.
on black, yeah.
That's what we're doing. So, and I like it. You know, it works good. I painted these when I had this all apart to do the timing belt, the water pump, and the thermostat, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's it. This car is almost completely stock as far as the engine goes. I haven't done barely anything to it. Electric fans. It is down about 1.5 inches from stock years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely low.
Years ago, I put some lowering springs on it. There was a company out of Canada that made lowering springs specifically for S12s.
Interesting.
They no longer exist, but I got a set. And so it is lowered about 1.5 inches from stock. The front struts are for a SW20 MR2.
Okay.
Because if they're cartridges, they just go slide right in, and they're the right length with the springs.
Interesting.
The rear shock absorbers are for a 84 Mustang LX.
Okay.
Because again, they fit
Fox body,
and they're the right length. There's Club S12, which I helped found back around 2003.
Yeah.
In the early days of PHP forums.
Yeah.
Still around, it's mostly on Facebook now. But I went through those guys, you find out what's the best way to set up the suspension.
Yeah.
With the lowering springs, because a bunch of people have them.
Yeah.
And that was it. SW20 up front, Fox body in the back.
So only 10,000 people visit this website?
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Enough people have visited that website that I sold an ad to Parts Geek.
Yeah?
It's got a Parts Geek ad on there.
Oh, wow.
Enough people visited it that's one of their freelance ad brokers contacted me last year, said, hey, we want to put an ad for Parts Geek on your site.
I guess people are seeing the car and they're like, well, what the fuck is this? Should I buy it? Gotcha.
Yeah, so that site, and then of course trianglerad.com.
Oh yeah, check them out. Check them out.
Yeah, we have a good time. I started that club after I got this car back on the road. I started going out to James's meets, and I kept saying, these are great. I want to see more.
I want to see rad. I want rad.
I want the rad stuff.
And he's right, because a lot of rad guys don't bring their cars out to our meets, just to most meets, because they want to make sure that their car is protected, stuff like that. So when he said, hey, I'm doing a rad meet, all of a sudden these cars that I've never seen before
out of the woodwork
just come out of nowhere, and I'm like, yo, I'll make sure I come to every single one of these, because you'll see some gems that you wouldn't even expect. Right. I remember one guy pulls up in a red Prowler with chrome rims, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm unique. And then a dude comes pulling up with the same exact car, and he was like, his face was like, are you kidding me, bro? Two red Prowlers with chrome rims.
There can't be more than that in the whole
Holy crap.
Of the state. They can't, and they were both there.
And the funny part was, one was all mint condition, car shows, banners and stuff.
The plaques
and then the other guy looked like he daily drove that thing. It was dope. All right.
It was awesome.
Anyway, so let's move on to the interior. I know you've been doing some updates and keeping it nice and trim.
I wouldn't necessarily call it updates as trying to make it presentable. Because, as I mentioned, it did sit in the sun for a while.
Yeah.
So this black vinyl was cracked, brittle, or just outright gone.
Normal.
And underneath that is hideous yellow foam.
Hey, what is going on here?
What's this?
What's going on here?
That's a CB radio. That's what that antenna's for, right?
Oh my goodness!
Now
you talking shit while you're on the highway?
Not anymore. Nobody's on it anymore. Back in the day when I was road tripping this, that thing was the bomb.
Yeah.
I would keep it on channel 19, talk to the truckers, and I knew about every speed trap for 100 miles in either direction.
Oh my goodness!
All the time. It was great.
That's dope, man.
It was way better than any radar detector I ever had.
Is this wood? Is that what that's supposed to be, or is that just orange like leather or something?
It's orange.
It's just orange?
I painted it.
Okay, I was about to say, dude, I like it.
You know how I did that?
I like it because the buttons and everything is the same color.
Yeah. All the text and all the gauge.
Everything is that color. Orange. Look at that.
So I started doing orange highlights on the black years ago. And I had an orange aluminum shift knob at the time,
the shift
right?
knob, yeah. Everything's orange.
It used to be an orange aluminum, but it faded over the years, and that company's gone.
Yeah.
But when I did the shift knob, and actually this stitching used to be orange in the boot, but it faded. But when I did the shift knob, I decided I wanted to do like a metallic orange look here, here. what I ended up figuring out was I spray painted them silver, normal, and I found this paint from Japan that was meant for spraying marker lights.
Okay.
So it's like amber, transparent marker light paint. You put it over silver Krylon, and it comes out metallic orange.
Holy shit. So you basically created a color.
Kinda, yeah.
That's
faded
dope,
over
man.
the years too.
Even his fucking charger is the same color.
Oh yeah, you got to do that, man.
Come
Those
on,
orange
man.
switches,
Even the switches over here.
Those are not the original switches, of course.
That's
one of
dope,
them runs
man.
the fans, and the other one does the fog lights.
Man, that's dope. This looks comfortable, man.
So let's get in.
Yeah, let's get in. You ready already? You already ready? You done telling your stories, giving us a history lesson?
We're gonna lose daylight pretty soon here.
Oh yeah.
So you were
These
talking about
these 80 seats, man.
they're pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
They're not bad. It goes back more too, I think. So, as you were saying, every highlight in here is orange, and I really like the orange on black.
It looks good, man.
Motif.
Yeah.
Even when I put the electric fans on, I put in this indicator light to confirm that the fans are running, and of course it's orange. Because why
Wait,
would?
oh shit! Is this all this lights up?
Yeah. Well, there's like half a dozen idiot lights over there.
Okay.
The only one that's on all the time is the
Wiper fluid?
Wiper fluid, because the sensor's bad.
Gotcha.
And that's one of those things on a car like this you can't get until you luck into one.
Custom.
Not something I'm going to worry about too bad. Really, the only thing, well, there's recent changes in here in the stereo. When I bought this car, it had a Kenwood tape deck in it, and you know, which was fine, but it eventually died. And I had a whole series of CD players and everything in it.
Yeah.
And I recently got my hands on this, which is an original, factory original tape deck that would have come in this car originally.
Yeah.
What was even harder to find was this amplifier.
Wait, the amp is right here?
This is the amp, it's behind this panel. And the way this stereo is set up, you gotta either have the amp or the graphic equalizer that was optional that goes here.
Exactly.
Or you can't use the head unit, because it has no direct speaker outputs on the head unit. It's got to go through
It's
the
got to
amp.
go through the amplifier. Gotcha.
And so I got the tape deck before I realized that, and then went,
It's
well,
so
I guess I'm
80s.
going hunting for an amp now.
How long did that take?
A couple of months.
Not bad.
You know, but you know, I got it, and it works. Even the tape deck works. So I've been hitting up the flea market for cassette tapes from the 80s, just trying to find stuff to play.
I had a Leonard Skinner tape in my 740 IL before I sold it.
The very
got it for
first one I found when I went to the flea market. Hooters, Nervous Night, 1985. This was the first tape I ever bought when I was like 11 years old.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I found another copy of it at the North Carolina State Fair flea market.
You might want to scan it and see how much it's worth on eBay.
It's not bad.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah, not worth
Says Gary V.
Yeah. So the only other thing I've done to the interior is last year I put in these gauges because both the oil pressure and temperature gauge
Went bad at the same
went
time.
bad. The temperature gauge reads twice whatever the actual temperature is, and the oil pressure gauge just reads 0 all the time.
Gotcha.
So there they go. Then they're not real, you know, they're not out, sticking out. It still looks original. They're just right there.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Fuck yeah. Well, let's go for
It's
a ride,
comfy.
man.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's see what this thing is made of.
Sure.
I can tell that this handles way better just because of the lower center of gravity. Like, it really didn't take much other than that.
It does handle nice. You know, the ride, of course, is not as
A little
smooth
harsh.
as it was originally.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah.
Especially since I put the KYB gas adjusts on the back.
Yeah.
The back end is way more stable than it was.
I like the deep tone of the V6.
It does sound
It
nice.
sounds nice. Is that exhaust work or is
Yeah,
that
and
just?
It's a 2.5 inch from the cat back,
Yeah.
which is a little bigger than stock. It's got, I think, thrush muffler on it. It originally had a Flowmaster, and then I think I did a thrush after that.
Gotcha.
But that exhaust, and it's a mandrel bend exhaust that RJ's made for me.
Gotcha.
But that was like 15 years ago, and it's held up all this time.
It doesn't have that trumpety sound that most V6s come with.
No, the VG30 has a rumble to it when you
Yeah.
get the right exhaust on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they managed to make the VG sound so good and then make the VQ sound so bad, but they did. Obviously, they had a different generation of people working for them.
Absolutely, man.
But like, yeah, I mean, I just tool around at 2,200 RPM, but the torque is there if I need it. You know?
It definitely has that flat torque curve.
Yeah.
I can feel it. Like it's always there. It may not be a bunch, but it's always there. And that's what I like about older cars.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to go back to the Tail of the Dragon in this, because I had it out there years ago on the stock suspension.
Oh, shit.
And it was a blast then. Oh shit, look at that.
Yeah, we were looking at that earlier.
ST185 Celica.
There you go.
ST180 series, yeah. So, yeah, my projects for last year, especially last winter and spring, was the suspension and steering.
Yeah.
So I did the shocks, the struts, control arms, basically everything. Steering rack.
Yeah.
I went through the whole thing. Finally got it kind of where I wanted. Oh, yeah, this is nice.
Oh yeah, this is nice.
Just gonna leave it for it. Yeah. This is tight. There we go.
Oh no.
It is like the Dragon, because that happens every time on the Dragon.
Big Maxima interview. Oh no.
It's gonna do.
Broken cobalt. It's
That
pulling
never
over.
happens.
You're good, go around there. Well, damn, that was pretty cool. This thing handles a lot better than I expected it to. Well, then again, I kind of did expect it to handle good. You know, being as lightweight it is.
It's small,
yeah.
it's low.
Yeah.
Now,
And it's sketchy enough to where it's super fun.
It is a little, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, the suspension setup is what I put together from what was available and did in my garage.
Gotcha, gotcha. But we never really talked about what can you do to this car? Like what else is there to do? What's
Obviously,
available?
The aftermarket specifically for S12s is virtually zero. So there's some stuff you can do. If you convert all the knuckles to S13, then you can run S13 coilovers.
Okay.
So that is a very common, guys do that. I'm not doing it on a V6 because it's too rare and I want to keep it more original.
Gotcha.
Most of the guys that do crazy suspension setups and engine swaps, they start with 4-banger cars.
Gotcha.
Because it's just what you do.
Yeah, yeah. Easier to find as well.
So there's been some attempts to turbo the V6 because of course there's a 300ZX turbo.
Yeah.
That engine will not swap directly into this car. It will not fit in the engine bay.
Gotcha.
The turbo setup runs behind the engine, and in this car it's wedged up against the firewall.
Yeah.
There's no room.
Because this is a pony car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That engine bay was not intended to have this engine in it.
Front mount turbo.
You can do it.
Yeah.
It's been tried. I wouldn't. If I was going to swap or do a turbo, I would start with a 4-cylinder car that's not.
Okay.
You know, this is kind of like, I feel like it's a museum piece, and it is my duty to keep it somewhat original.
But keep driving it.
But keep driving it.
Absolutely.
Which is why my what I do to it and most of my plans have to do with not making it different, but getting it closer to what it was when it was new, and where it needs to be to keep driving for a long time.
Gotcha.
So, and that's why I did what I did to the suspension and the steering and everything else. My plans, my 2022 list of stuff to do is the lifters, get the AC working again, hopefully before the summer. The paint needs to be addressed.
Okay, keeping it the same color, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll never change the wheels either.
These wheels are dope though.
These were just used on these V6 S12s. It's the only thing they ever put these wheels on. In '87, they had a different center cap. It was like black, and it was just the center, and the lugs were exposed. Okay. This center cap is '88 only, V6 only. Only thing they ever used it on.
Interesting.
Which means whenever I see one on eBay, I buy it.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely.
I have spares.
So basically, you're just maintaining it, keeping it healthy.
Yep.
There really isn't. You're not really interested in any kind of modifications other than like simple stuff like the steering wheel and creature comforts.
Some stuff that I like to make it a little more me. But I haven't done anything to it that couldn't be undone by somebody that wanted to make it original, totally factory perfect.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's very close to where I want it to be. Man,
that's what's up, dude. Well, thank you for finally taking me on the ride in this thing. I've been waiting for this moment for a while. And actually getting the full history of it, because during the car meets we get so fucking busy, man.
Oh man. Especially when you're the host, you can't.
Yeah, you don't sit and talk for too long. It's always like, we're going places. So getting the full background story is really cool, and I hope some people learn something by watching this video, because I learned a lot today. The fact that this was made in America and not in Japan is fucking nuts.
It was not made in America.
Well, it's not. It was made in Japan, but for America.
Only in America.
Which is nuts.
How often is it that we get something JDM don't get?
Yeah, and I wonder if they want it. I wonder if someone is in Japan that's like, I want a fucking S12 V6. Maybe. So, man. And have you run into any more people with a V6?
Yes.
How many?
There's one in Greenville. There's one in Winston-Salem. I haven't actually met them.
But you've seen them
online.
I know of them. Okay, they both running?
No.
Oh. No kidding.
One of them run. Well, no, one of them doesn't run and just got sold, but it's sold to another local guy who. The guy who sold it promised me he was going to get me in touch with that guy, so I can stay connected to the car. Gotcha. And then the guy in Greenville, I don't know if his runs or not.
It's not important. This one's cooler.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, check out Triangle Rad. Comment below what you think about this awesome car. It's super rare and unique. I love it. I love 80s, 90s Rads cars. Like that's my time zone. So
Pop-Up Nation.
Pop-Up Nation, man. But yeah, so check them out. Hit them up. Tell them what you think in the comments. He's got his own YouTube channel as well that he's starting to develop.
Triangle Rad one. Yeah.
Triangle Rad YouTube channel. And so yeah, man, tell me what y'all think, man. I'm really curious to see what the community thinks about this thing, because it is super cool and I really like it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you want to be featured, hit me up. Y'all have a good day. Peace.